And this is a hard act to follow. This was a really good discussion, I think. So summarizing the meeting is an impossible task. It's like drinking from a fire hose for the past 3 days. Everybody was giving great talks on their important and interesting science for the past 3 days. But I've got a few minutes, and you can't leave without me seeing you leave, so I can take some time. What didn't happen here? Okay, it's often harder to see what is missing or what didn't happen than what did. Well, there were no fights. I mean, in spite of Jan-Uwe baiting people about resonance scattering, nobody bit. So there were no fist fights. We might have to have a cage match with him and somebody else later. Now, in spite of what we heard about Lab Astro needs, nobody here was also saying, I can't fit my models. I know my models are right. I can't fit them because you aren't giving me the right atomic data. I need those iron-like uranium cross sections. Okay, so I know there are the lab data is important. There are important things to do, and the funding is a big question. But it looks like we have the infrastructure pretty well designed, from the calculations and the lab measurements, getting it into databases, getting it into analysis software. Sure, there's like, I need charge exchange, but everybody is being like polite about it, saying, can you give me those crosses? Well, when do you want them? Well, soon, but when can you get them to me? So, I mean, there is important work going on, but we seem to understand the mechanisms. What else didn't we hear about here? We didn't hear much about exoplanets. I think that's okay. We except maybe in passing in the context of blasting away their atmospheres or being eaten by black holes. So, all right, what was there here at the meeting? And we heard about this already. It seems like a fairly diverse group in age. We have the veterans who've been doing high resolution spectroscopy for 30 years or more, but we also have the younger generation coming up. So we have the mentors, we have the students. So if this is a good cross section of the community, I don't know if it is, but it's reason to be optimistic about the future and about participation in these extra missions and getting community support for them. We might, be a small niche though and not have enough leverage. That's kind of like the worry, is like, is there enough community interest in ARCUS? There's also some misunderstanding, like resolution of 2500. That's not 60s, it's at least 1990s, because it depends on what your natural line width is. So once you start resolving the thermal width, that's a resolution of what, 4,000 in X-rays. You don't need 100,000 because you're not going to get anything more except more pixels with no signal. We heard about some real ninja use of the facilities. One good example of that was Matthew Millard's use of HETG on supernova remnants, which fill the field of view and get smeared over the whole field of view. All right, so we got people really pushing the capabilities of our instruments, and we also have requests to help mitigate the continuing contamination by using non-standard instrumental capabilities, and some of that we can do, and we can provide the support within the Chandra X-ray Center to do that. We saw a lot of new data. We saw some new methods, a little bit on neural networks, some new statistics, some new tools like cavity detection, a lot of new use of old data, like precise RV measurements of data that's in the archive. The archive is still rich. There are things we can do that were not planned by the original observers. There are now a long series of stuff in the archives. We have projects that have been going on for 20 years now, like with Supernova 87A. We also saw some 8-year time series of some active galaxies. So we got both old and new data that are, the archive is valuable. The old data are still being mined while we're collecting new data. We also touched on this with the panel here. I mean, a lot of people are still doing global fitting. Sometimes that's appropriate, especially when you want like a quick impression of my objects. But we also got people going into the low-level spectral diagnostics, looking at line ratios, looking at new features. That's where the lab data come in. We saw some spectra with features in it where we don't know where they come from. So we also saw cases where the global fitting has no leverage on an important feature because it's just one little blip over here. You got to go look at those blips. So we saw people doing both the global fitting and also doing the detailed line analysis. And just the broad range of stuff we saw here: ISM, stars, AGN, cataclysmic variables, supernova remnants, lab astro. And we got to think a little bit about the future of how we can use Chandra. We have some good ideas about that. What can Chandra do now to support our science? Other ideas about what do we need to do to support the future missions. And this panel discussion was very good in looking forward to CRISM, LINX, LEM missions. And the other thing I noticed that this is a high-res X-ray workshop. The high-resolution instruments are Chandra HETG, LETG, and XMM-RGS. But there's a tight coupling between that and all the other missions too. We saw SWIFT, NuSTAR, MAXI, ROSAT, OSCA, all the way back to Einstein. All these things still inform what we do. So I think that it just shows that while we're doing high resolution spectroscopy, that we still need support from a lot of these other missions. So those are my impressions. And instead of you asking me questions, anybody else want to mention just what highlights you have from the meeting?
I just want to thank the local organizing committee. Seriously, all you guys in the front and everyone who's been working, I think it's been wonderful.
Yeah, me too. And yeah, we will thank our admin staff too, who's been helping out with the cleanup and the catering and making sure that the leftovers get upstairs to hungry students.
Thanks a lot. Everybody get home safely, please. Two more things real quick. One, if you don't really feel like holding on to it anymore, because the meeting's over, feel free to leave it. We'll recycle it for a future meeting. Second thing, the 25 years symposium for Chandra, the big blowout for the past 25 years of everything we've done, is going to be December of next year in downtown Boston. So mark your calendars, get excited, come back and join us. We hope to see you all there. Thank you.